But while rendering this decision, the Supreme Court also made it clear that the value of stock in trade has to be taken into account in computing the gross profit under Section 28 on commercial accounting principles. I repeat, under Section 28, in computing gross profit on commercial accounting principles. In other words, what the Supreme Court was trying to explain is that items that go under section, or rather that go into computing the gross profit, go under 28. So which means that if something goes into the trading or manufacturing account, that goes into 28, and once that goes into 28, the provisions of 40A1A would not operate. Let's take a simple example of carriage inwards. Carriage inwards goes into gross profit. There cannot be a disallowance under 40A1A, can be one argument. Or let's take the case of job work charges. That may also go under the provisions of 28, and therefore 40A1A may not be invocable. There could be any number of such examples, so long as we can fit it into 28 and do not bring that particular item of expense within the ambit of sections 30 to 38. We also have other controversies which can come up in the context of 40A1A. One of them would be in relation to what would happen in the event of there being a short deduction or a failure to deduct surcharge and additional surcharge. I'll probably take the second part of it first, a failure to deduct surcharge and additional surcharge. I think the plain and simple language of 40A1A would say that on which tax is to be deducted under Chapter 17B, and such tax has been deducted. So which would mean that what is covered is the requirement by Chapter 17B. So if there is a failure to deduct surcharge or additional surcharge, of course that requirement may not arise hereafter, but in the past, then there cannot be a disallowance which can be made under 40A1A. A larger question is in relation to a lower deduction, probably by mistake. Let's take a simple case. I believe that the payment falls under 194C and therefore deducted 1% or 2% as required by 194C. The assessing officer may have a different view of the matter, and we may also be convinced at a later point that this is a professional or technical service and therefore would fall under 194J, where the requirement to deduct would be at a higher percentage. So there is a clear case of a lower deduction. Now in such a case, let's just look at the language very carefully. It says on which tax has to be deducted under Chapter 17B, and such tax has been deducted. So, first, is there a requirement to deduct under 17B? Yes. Has such tax been deducted? Yes. Even though I may have deducted at a lower rate, have I deducted? The answer is yes. Still the provisions of 40A1A, in my view, cannot be held applicable. These are all just thoughts that are coming to my mind, which I am trying to throw out for the purpose of discussion. One last and probably very important aspect in the context of 40A, before I proceed to another aspect in relation to TDS, is what would be the effect if there is a payer who has made a payment without deduction of tax at source, but the payee has included this in his income and paid the taxes. Now we are all aware of the decision of the Supreme Court in Hindustan Coca-Cola Beverages, where the Supreme Court has said that if the payee has paid the taxes, including the amount paid by the payer as part of his income, then once such taxes are paid by the payee, the department is debarred from recovering the taxes from the payer. And one of the reasons why the Supreme Court came to this conclusion is they relied on an instruction of the board itself, where they said recovery proceedings should not be taken against the payer once the payee has included this amount in his income and paid the taxes thereon. Now the confusion arises in 40A1A. There is no similar instruction. can we extend the same analogy is probably the only question that we can answer. Now, at the outset, I will understand that as a payer, I have an obligation to deduct tax at source. Once you have included this as a payee in your income and paid the taxes thereon, my obligation to deduct no longer survives. Once my